Welcome to Real Flix Reviews. This is a show that reviews everything from the movie Dark City to latest, greatest, craptastic Dean Cain movie. I'm Jonathan Charney, he's James Stevens, and the man on the lower left-hand corner is Ryan Corpus Delecti Preston. This week we reviewed the movie Being John Malkovich, made in 1999, starring John Cusack, Cameron Diaz, and John Malkovich. Before we start this week's show, James has a little PSA about finding rare movies.
So, about 2 days after we reviewed this movie, and I had to do a lot of searching to find a decent copy of it, I come across this movie, I Come in Peace, which we just did last week, on VHS. So, I mean, just keep your eyes open. It's always great and fun to find rare and hard to find movies. This one is not even released on DVD in the States. It's, what is it called, Region 1 that you can find?
Well, Region 1 is the U.S. Region 2, it is in, which is England. It's called Dark Angel?
It's called Dark Angel, but the American release is I Come in Peace. And I also found another rare movie that isn't... It's very difficult to find on DVD as well, called Warlock. We'll do that one a little later. But... keep your eyes open. Don't be expecting to, go across and find these in like Walmart. I actually found this in a secondhand store. So look around, see what you can find.
Any movie collection that you happen to see on a wall somewhere, go. It's worth taking a look if you find something like this. Literally a day after, I can't believe that you.
Actually, 2 days. 2 days after.
Whatever, still.
Yeah. And it probably wasn't there when we actually did the show. It probably came out later because it is a secondhand story. They have to go through and process it, and then it gets on the floor.
I will say, I think what James said is the most important, is not all movies made it to DVD. Whether it was a bad movie or whoever owns the rights to it decided not to stamp it on DVD.
Exactly, and you can buy a movie like this and go down to a store that actually takes VHS and puts it on DVD, or you can do it at home if you have the capability. But
the other thing
keep your eyes open.
Yeah. The other thing is, if you're not a technical person, know how hardware works in DVDs. DVDs are called region coding. Basically, if you buy a DVD that says Region 2, you cannot play it in the U.S. without a region-free DVD player.
Yeah, exactly, which they don't make anymore. Right. Not in the U.S. They don't put them out anymore. They used to be when DVDs first started coming out. Well, DVD players first started coming out.
And Craigslist and whatnot. You might be able to track yourself down one.
Some DVDs and Blu-ray players do have hacks, codes, things to open up to region free, but they are rare, especially in the US.
Yeah, my first DVD player would play anything. Anything you put in it would play it, no matter what region it is. That thing actually burned out long time ago, but it lasted quite a long time before it did that. But yeah, so finding those are very hard to come across.
So, thank you for the PSA, James.
No.
I just keep thinking that somebody up there was watching our review of the movie and was like, you know what, this movie really does suck, and then goes and sells it, and then James finds it.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. What happened?
So this week, Ryan, was your pick, and you picked Being John Malkovich. So why don't you start out by saying what it's about?
Okay. Being John Malkovich is kind of a surreal film, more somewhat fantasy, but more just a kind of a standard comedy. It's more like the introduction of fantasy into a real life, real world. But the movie's about this guy, Craig Schwartz, and his kind of crazy wife, but they're both strange people, so they kind of work together. He needs to finds a job at this really bizarre little building. It's kind of a bizarre filing job because he's a puppeteer, and that's all he really wants to do, but he keeps getting his ass kicked on the street for reasons I'm not
for
go
sex
into right
shows,
now. Anyway,
for puppet sex shows.
Ends up on the seven and a half floor, was it, I believe?
Yeah, 7.5.
7.5, floor 7.5 of a building. Again, won't go into it right now.
Oh, come on.
Working at a filing place and discovers a portal that transports you into John Malkovich, the actor, that you can see through his eyes for about 15-20 minutes, and then it spits you out on somewhere on the New Jersey Turnpike. And the movie is basically about that and the subsequent, what does this all mean, to the characters and to the world. Written by Charlie Kaufman, the same guy that did the adaptation and some kind of same bizarre type of movies. And this is probably one of my favorite, just kind of really weird, absurd storylines that introduces real characters. I love this movie.
Well, I'm gonna jump in here. I gotta say, you kind of skipped over quite a bit of things. One of the things, and I know why you're kind of
entire movie.
We're trying to get some discussion going, and all right, so for me, I mean, I like Charlie Kaufman movies. I do.
Yeah.
He wrote Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. He did an unproduced draft of A Scanner Darkly. He worked on the Dana Carvey Show. He did Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. Being John Malkovich, he's got talent. He's got a lot of talent. I actually am very kind of impressed with his career. Not a lot of things. He kind of seems to be a nitpicker on what movies he chooses to do, which I respect as a writer, producer, director.
They're all kind of that same sort of story.
Yeah, they're all strange and kind of along the same premise of the fact that they kind of happen in real world time, and some strange and awkward and weird things go on to the main character, and he has to develop and adapt.
Yeah, it's twisty.
Yeah. To me, this whole storyline of this movie kind of seemed a little bit like a Jerry Springer episode. My wife is cheating on me with a partner through the body of John Malkovich. Come on. That sounds like it's Jerry Springer.
True,
to me.
But it doesn't have the bald bodyguard, so I'll agree with that.
Yeah, so I mean, that part of the storyline kind of irked me a little bit. The fact that, I mean, the wife, who was played by Cameron Diaz, who I don't know what the heck they did to her hair, but I'm sure it damaged it for a long time.
That was the first thing he actually noticed, which was really weird, because he was watching it and going, "What'd they do to her hair?" And as a guy, I was just like, "What?"
I mean, her hair stood out like 3 feet on each side.
But how many people can do that as an actress and just go from that sex symbol that she started out in as The Mask, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, look what we could do to this woman by just probably no makeup and one wig, you know.
Yeah.
Weird sweater.
But all in all, I gotta say I do like the movie, though. I mean, the major points of the acting is very well done. Yeah, the story is strange, but really, what do you expect from John Malkovich?
That is true.
I thought it was actually a very well done. The story kind of irked me a little bit in the sense of they never really explain some major points. And, before I get into the major points, I want to see what John says before I get into any of that.
Okay, well, for anybody who missed the end of last week's show, I haven't seen the movie. I've actually been avoiding it over the years because it didn't look like something that I would be into.
Shame.
To be completely honest, I wasn't a giant fan of the movie. There are points of it that I really disliked, but the thing I thought was interesting, I think it's a completely character-driven movie, and this is what I've written down. It's the Maxine, who's who's kind of the
whore.
Yeah, well, she's kind of the main. She's one of the main characters.
She's a whore.
What I wrote down is her character is the slut/bitch character who uses her body to manipulate people.
True.
There's Flores, who's the deaf secretary.
Oh, I love that character so much.
There's Dr. Lester, who's the old sleaze of a man.
No, he is the pinnacle of a dirty old man.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, Dr. Lester,
right.
He's a dirty old man who seems to have a hard-on for John Malkovich through the entire movie. But that is late, goes on to later in the story. So, and there's Craig Schwartz.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Oh, who was to me a neurotic guy.
I even got Ryan to shake his head on that one.
Oh wow. He seemed to be a really neurotic guy who hates life and hates his wife for some reason. For no apparent reason.
I think he's completely unsatisfied with his station in life, and he's made his own bad choices to get himself to where he's gotten.
But exactly. He's taking it out on his wife.
He's projecting whatever is pissed off, whatever his hatred towards his wife or his job. or anything like that, or towards the monkey. I can't believe he was unkind to that monkey.
So overall,
he's just projecting all of that, and so it's all about his inner demons and what happens. I mean, the movie is got all kinds of underlaying, existential type of.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of that,
et cetera.
I gotta admit, that was the part. I mean, this is definitely. Was this a straight release or was this in the theaters? Did anybody remember?
This is a theater release, I believe.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I think so. Yeah, sure.
It wasn't very long in the theater. It came out on DVD pretty quick. But
this definitely has the feel of a movie that did better on DVD than it would in the movies because there was a lot of underlaying stuff. I thought.
Want to see twice and kind of see the parts that you sort of missed. I mean, most people I know have seen this film. They've seen it at least a couple times.
I mean, this is my second time. I didn't sit down and watch it a bunch of times. Now, one of the things I want to point out, which is kind of a little, what you're kind of saying about Schwartzy, is they allowed a lot of character development for him. They really try to show the frustration and that he's not happy with his life, which gave the movie a very slow start.
Well, it was.
They really did.
Yeah. It was
because
slow.
they were he was developing the character and trying to get you in the mind of this puppeteer, where the society basically at this point in time, and even today, has rejected the puppeteer for more of TV, movies, stage, and has moved on to that over wanting to see somebody who is a very talented puppeteer do his thing, which they really made Schwartzy into that type of character, a very talented puppeteer.
He seemed kind of a self-loathing, a very dark, self-loathing, brooding kind of guy.
Now, okay, a couple things that kind of bugged me, and I waited for it, and I should have known better because I've seen the movie before, but it's been so long that I guess I had forgotten about these things. Is they never explain why John Malkovich, of all the people in the world, why John Malkovich. They never really touched on that, unless I missed it.
He just happened to be the guy.
Yeah, they just happened to randomly kind of pick John Malkovich out of everybody in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it was you can't.
And what
you
is
can't think about the writers that are doing it while.
Well, yeah,
I have to say it would not have sounded good if it was Being John Candy. Especially the 1999 when the dude was dead. But
yeah, I mean, they kind of wake up in a grave. It's all black. Now, so, yeah, that kind of bugged me, the fact that they never really pointed out why John Malkovich. They explained why the 7.5 floor. They explained why that is, because, I mean, obviously it's the guy who created the building that is continuing to live on. And for some, they never really went into exactly why there's a portal into somebody's head.
Yeah, but it had this really, I thought it was odd, very Potter-esque. And yes, I know this movie came before Potter, so don't write me. Like the 9 3/4. You have to do some secret way to get into it, which to me was hilarious. Which was stop the elevator and use a crowbar.
Yeah, stop the elevator, use a crowbar.
See, that's any movie with a freaking 7.5 floor. That whole scene, I'll take you through it. The lady bringing them up with the stopping the thing, and then there you go with the alarm going off the whole time.
Yeah, every time.
I love the rest of the movie, and now I'm just going to judge it as a whole, but I'm not going to.
The other thing that kind of irked me that they never got into is why the New Jersey Turnpike.
The only thing
that's the exact spot,
because nothing good happens in Jersey.
I'm sure. Look, that moment. Where do you want to be dropped off? You know what I mean? As far as just some random place.
Well, here,
New Jersey Turnpike is a very random place, especially on the side of the road where people just pound into the ground every time.
Well, here's kind of my
the absurdity and the randomness of it that I love.
I know.
Well, here my thought was, everybody who ends up being in for 15 minutes of John Malkovich seems to always be in this place of, just like euphoria, and then comes the old joke, nothing good happens in Jersey. So that was my thought, was the fact that where would be the place where you least likely as a New Yorker want to end up? Jersey was honestly my thought.
Oh, that's actually a good point.
Oh, yeah, I mean, 20 miles outside.
Okay. Say it again really slow because you kind of chopped up there.
Right. Yeah, I know. Never mind. Continue.
Okay, I was just
okay. Which that was weird. I have to say, though, my favorite part of the whole movie is the fact when Lester comes up to John Cusack in the filing room, and he says, like, I'm 105 years old and I drink nothing but carrot juice. It's freaky because I piss orange.
Yeah, him randomly coming up and kind of sharing his little sex life and stuff like that, I thought was actually a pretty funny part. I was laughing pretty good at that point.
I got to say, though, if my boss happened to come up at me and start explaining his personal coitus, I'd be kind of a little
and then invite you out for juice to go and talk some more about it.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I would be a little
I mean, if I ever become a strange, dirty old man, the Lester character is the pinnacle of that, as far as I'm concerned. I haven't seen a better job on a dirty, strange, awkward old man than him.
See, Jim, this is that's your brother in 50 years.
No, that guy's too cool.
So
okay, hold on. I got one more point I want to kind of bring up that I actually kind of was curious and interested about too, is when they're running through John Malkovich's subconscious and all his old memories of growing up. How much of that do you actually think happened?
Well,
being a little kid holding your teddy bear, watching your mom getting boned.
With the writing of it, as far as they just kind of came to him with the idea, and he just kind of came across his desk, and he just kind of took the job as far as like, okay, like, his agent pretty much told him, like, look, this one has your name all over it. He read the script, saw that it was, good. I think it sat around for a while, and then they ended up just getting together and making it.
Yeah, but I mean, the running to the subconscious, where he's like he's got all these memories of traumatic events. I'm wondering if any of those were actually happened to him.
Why were
anybody's life?
Why were they all in third person was the first thing I thought, and then two, the weirdest one was he was sniffing somebody's underwear.
Yeah, that was a little bit strange.
You ever had a memory in your like really deep childhood that you can only think of in third person? That happens to me all the time.
Yeah, I got a couple of those.
Not really.
I mean, I got a couple of those, but I mean, I guess if they're really traumatic, there's people that kind of say that they kind of step out of their body and review it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just it's a forced perspective thing. I mean, when you're remembering the events and your place in them.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious. I mean, if any of those were actually events that happened to him in his life. You
would think some of them at least be inspired by him or somebody else's, the writers. There has to be something to some of it.
Like Coffins or something like that. I mean, they had probably a pretty crazy childhood. They're bizarre dudes.
I do have to say, though, the one thing that shocked me, because I always hear everybody say how this was a comedy, and so I came in...
It's a comedy.
Well, I came in expecting a light, funny, ha-ha type of comedy.
I'm sorry, John, I should have told you, I like dark comedies.
Yeah, see, this is that. I honestly was not expecting it to be as dark as it was.
The scene when he got punched on the street, that was pretty much setting the tone for the comedy.
Oh, yeah. It basically was. And I mean, I kind of liked how they drew that out, that scene.
And it went downhill from there. I mean, this is one of the darker comedies I've seen in a long, long time.
We'll have to pull some more out for you.
I mean, but when did you ever think you were going to see Cameron Diaz in a cage?
My entire life I've been wanting to see that.
There you go.
Or maybe
I'm fulfilling dreams over here.
Or maybe is it just the duct tape?
Oh, jeez.
But how good was she in that movie? I loved her performance in this.
I agree. This is one of her pinnacles.
I mean, it's like she'd never been hot before that, and it's like for an insanely hot chick to play like she's never been hot before, that's got to be hard.
Yeah.
To me,
I'll give you that.
To me, the actor who deserves the most credit is the names on it. John Malkovich did an amazing job with some of the random stuff he had to do in this movie.
Especially when he was being controlled by Schwartz,
Cusack,
that whole acting. I mean, that's hard to keep track of, and he played it as if he was being controlled. You know what I mean?
By a puppeteer,
yeah.
Yeah.
That right there realized why I've always liked John Malkovich. I mean, the first time I remember really saying how good of an actor was it's a bad movie, I gotta admit, was Con Air, when he played Cyrus the Virus.
Oh, look, that's what everybody remembers him.
I was going to point out that I think that's the movie that they were all saying is the heist movie that he played, because they kind of stole the plane. They stole the plane. That was a heist. They hijacked the plane.
That was 97, wasn't it, Con Air?
Yeah, that was right before this movie. So
like 96.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's the movie everybody was trying to peg him in.
Yeah,
I know
I'll
that's
give you that.
that's the closest thing I can think of.
But the reason why I say this, the Con Air kind of made him stand out was he played this very cerebral character, but in a very violent action, non-cerebral way, if it makes sense.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
He played a deep character that didn't need to be deep.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. So
any more points?
I was going to bring up for John in case he was looking for more comic relief, the whole Charlie Sheen interstitials.
Oh, geez, yeah, John, come on, you just had a point in there.
Come on, and especially with all the stuff that's happened nowadays, that only gets relevant.
Come on.
I don't remember it, but I know I said something.
The witches thing.
Oh, that's right. He was talking about how the couple of.
Let's get them over here. Witches are great.
Yeah, but the thing that I thought was weird was the fact that's very ironic for the guy for the last year has called himself the Warlock.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, and did you hear that the doctor?
Witches Coven.
Did you hear that John Malkovich called him the Machine?
Yeah.
Which is another thing. Another saying he said is, "Where's the machine?" So I mean, it was. I have to admit, it's kind of ironic that Charlie Sheen was in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the part when he was when Malkovich told him he had a way to live forever.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. And I'm glad that Charlie Sheen and John Malkovich both did not age the way that they were portrayed in that movie after 7 years.
I love the comb-over.
Yeah, the comb-overs and all that stuff. It's like, I'm so glad you guys don't look like that.
But here's my number one question. That guy, the Dr. Lester, invited a bunch of people into John Malkovich when he took John Malkovich over.
Right. Yep.
What happened to him?
They're all voyeurs.
That's what I was wondering.
They're all voyeurs.
I mean,
so basically,
or maybe they're all taking turns. I mean, maybe they all have the ability to do the Frank Schwartz thing and puppeteer him. So they're all just kind of, hey, this is me and this is me and then this is me. I don't know.
But the way they made
how were they all inside that room? Obviously, they had jumped from body to body before. How were they all inside the room when he introduced Cameron Diaz's character?
Well, the way it sounded that he was the only person who was doing it, it sounded like he just introduced those people in that person's lifetime to being immortal through the corridor.
Yeah, he had made these friends. Okay, try again. You cut out again.
Yes, you're gonna have to. What did you say, Ryan?
Continue.
Hey, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we're having a little bit of technical
I can never tell when I'm behind you guys or in front.
Okay.
It's the problem with talking heads, man. I'm sorry, everybody, for the talking head thing. At least before it was a talking monkey.
True.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe.
So, you were saying.
Where was I at?
About everybody in the head.
Oh yeah, I mean that part seems kind of weird. That's just they had so many people there, and what type of life would it be if basically all you're doing is watching somebody? But I would think I was thinking that maybe one of the reason nobody else could take control of John Malkovich because maybe it took a certain type of personality.
Yeah, that's probably it.
I think they also mentioned that it had to be right. His brain had to be right for everybody to jump into on some kind of special day or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that was to permanently take over, though, wasn't it? It had to be like when his 44th birthday at 12 o'clock.
If you took it over too early.
But how often you jump into the guy's head before you take over? So maybe that was the not right way of just kind of like spitting it out until
Well, he said
I think Schwartz was just the mind control to be able to jump in.
Well, he said that if you try to do it too early, you would wind up in a baby and trapped permanently in a baby. Because he had this book with all these diagrams and how it works. I want to know where he came up with this thing. Where did he get this book?
I want to know how he kept track of everybody.
It's awesome.
Yeah, the diagrams were pretty funny.
How the one thing is how was he keeping track of everybody's development? Like what sort of?
Well, I assume that he kept on popping in early in their life to keep track of their development at certain ages to see how they're developing and turning out.
So, do you think he would be able to actually notice that Schwartz was stuck in the girl?
I don't know. I don't know if it was like some prison cell or in the subconscious that he got trapped in or what. They don't
my
really
thing
go
is,
into that.
I know he's got to be hiring somebody to be taking pictures of these kids as from when they're with babies to the thing. I mean, obviously, luckily, Malkovich was an actor, so it's pretty easy to keep track of that shit.
Yeah, I mean,
But
the thing...
he was stocked in that pool, or at least paying somebody to do so.
Yeah, it kind of comes into the vampire thing that, all vampires that have been around for a long time have this fortune stashed up somewhere that they've accumulated.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's kind of what had happened, because, obviously he went into John Malkovich and they mentioned his bank account.
Of 120 years or whatever the hell it was, and, so you got to know some stuff.
Yeah, you got to know some stuff. You got to kind of...
it's the classic, what would I do if I was younger, if I had to do it over and knew what I do now.
Exactly. So, yeah, there's some stuff that you kind of pick up along the way.
But I did have one thought. You'd think that he would make a plan realizing there's a possibility that he was going to lose the control of John Malkovich. You'd think he would have thrown some money his way under some sort of assumed name.
Heck yeah,
so he could, and make it disappear so he could jump out and boom, a couple of $1 million, tax-free.
I would have.
Yeah.
Some freaking Swiss bank account or Cayman Islands thing
exactly.
going on.
Something,
heck yeah.
Something for
especially with the pull that guy was supposed to be having while he was John Malkovich for that long.
Exactly. You think you would do something so that if the possibility of you losing the control of it, you would have some money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice little golden parachute.
Oh, heck yeah.
So Ryan, what do you rate this movie?
I'm a sucker for this kind of, like I said, of the absurdity or just the slight twist on the major reality that the character driven kind of stuff. I'm going with a 4. Yeah.
Okay.
James?
Characters were great. Script was good.
One of the things I pointed out earlier that I do like some of the major points of this movie as far as the acting. I think it was very well done. Ryan pointed out that Cameron Diaz did a great job in the role that she did. She really did. I give her props for that. I do like the strange stories. I do appreciate those. I like them. And I have kind of an expectation of John Malkovich already, especially in the fact that I know that he's strange. I know that when he does something outside of a story that's already pre-written, such as Of Mice and Men, which I think he did an impeccable job.
Oh, that's right. He was Lenny, wasn't he?
Yes, he did.
I forgot about
Lenny.
that.
He did a fantastic job in that role. So I kind of expect some strangeness around John Malkovich, and that's kind of why I wasn't really put off by any of that in this movie. So on those bases and the fact that I'm a really big Charlie Kaufman fan, the writer of this movie, I'm giving it a 3. I would like to have seen a little bit more of kind of movement at certain parts, so it gets a 3 for me. But all in all, I actually do have to say this is kind of one of those movies that I enjoy. I don't go out of my way to see this. I'm not going to watch it multiple times.
So you'd want more development of where the thing came from?
Yeah, I want more kind of background of it, because they got 2 hours here. This movie is about 2 hours long. There's enough.
Yeah.
There's enough room here to kind of explain these mysteries that they left. I appreciate that there's mystery to it, but I think there's too much mystery.
Well, they did. The way they did it seemed to me that they did leave it open for another movie so they could explain more if they wanted to.
I don't know. It's kind of iffy on whether or not they did that on purpose. I think they just did it just to leave mystery.
I think they left it for a reason, to make no other movie, just to make it ambiguous. I think they like messing with their audience.
That's what I think.
Like I said, those things, it could be a million people.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. There's a million different things that they could do with it if they wanted to keep on going. I think they just wanted to kind of mess with you.
Yeah, I'll
Honestly,
agree.
I agree with you on that point. That I think they just wanted to mess with the audience.
Yeah, in all honesty, they could have filmed the scene but just cut it out because they wanted to leave it the vague part of it.
Yeah, that's true too.
Overall, I have to say I gave this movie a 2. I hate.
Absolutely, yeah.
I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but I did give this movie a 2. I have to say though, there was great characters. I love the fact he's shaking his head. I gotta admit that the character development I liked. There's some definitely standout characters in here. I thought the plot for what there was really solid, but for me, it also comes for the entertainment factor. And this just personally isn't my type of movie. It is a good movie though. It's not a horrible movie at all if you like dark comedies. And this is different. This is a dark comedy that's different than Meet the Fockers, I think. Stuff like that, or Meet the Parents. This is, I think, a smarter dark comedy, which I don't think you see a lot of, personally. So I gave it a 2 out of 5. I mean, what do you think, Ryan, about?
Oh, yeah. Obviously, I like the movie a lot more, and you know, as far as the darkness, I mean, you know, other than maybe a couple of random scenes, again with the mistreating of Cameron Diaz and the monkey, it was just a bizarre set of circumstances that got these characters to do what they did and things like that. And I mean, I don't know, these stories always ring a lot more true to me than your average, you know, comedy or, you know, stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me personally, because I'm not a giant fan of comedies, this is the first one in a long time I've seen that's not a cookie cutter, which I think modern comedy is a victim of.
That's why I like these kinds of things. And I mean, this is indicative of the kind of movies that I like. I mean, which is, I guess, indicative of the kind of movies that you know.
Yeah, I guess so. So next week is our
theater week.
Next week's our theater week, and we all three agreed on seeing the movie Prometheus by Ridley Scott.
Yeah, right.
This movie, I've heard, has a little bit of tie-in with the Aliens movie, which I can't wait. It also.
I will watch anything that Ridley Scott does.
Porn?
Oh. And another thing is...
What?
He said, would you see Ridley Scott porn?
Oh, hell yeah!
This, like I said before I was oddly interrupted, this movie might have a tie-in with the Aliens. It's also supposed to be, from what I've heard, is another trilogy type of thing, like the Aliens movies. I don't really include the fourth one as part of it because it's not as good.
Really? You heard that they're going to be making 2 more of these?
I've heard rumors of it. They might, if it starts off good, that might make more.
That would be interesting. I think that would be very cool if they turned it into a trilogy.
That could also be trolls.
True. There are a couple things I'm wondering. I'm wondering if those synthoid humans are going to be in the movie.
Oh. Yeah, that's a good question.
Because that is something I'd like to see. Because
the cottage cheese blood androids.
Do you remember the doctor?
Oh.
Just give him a second. Just give him a second here.
Yeah.
So,
anybody? It was the video that was delaying. I got it.
So, any finished last words, Ryan, James?
Meow. What?
Any last words, Ryan?
I've said my piece to try to sway you on your crazy 2.5, bringing my average down. But
actually, it's an average.
It's okay.
It's a 3.
Like I said,
it's a 3. It's not a 2.5.
A lot of people, and I like it for a lot of different reasons. And you know, to anybody who's watching this and likes this, also this is the kind of thing that I may do aside from like the you know, random other action movies and things like that. But this is a pretty good benchmark of the kind of shit that
I think if people actually enjoy this movie, look into more of the Kaufman movies that are out there. As Ryan said, Adaptation's a good one. One of my all-time favorites is Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. I love that movie. The Chuck Berry story is a very, very strange and cool kind of adaptation of it. You know, I mean, if you like strange things as well, look into some of John Malkovich's stuff too. So, yeah, those would be my last words on this movie. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, though, John. Is, you know, there are some things that people aren't going to enjoy if they're not a fan of kind of the darker comedies or comedies in general.
Yeah, I mean, it really, I think for me, comes just not being a fan of general comedies.
Okay.
And, you know, I wish would I see this movie again? No. Was it, for me, it was okay. I mean, I did give it a 2 out of 5. James gave it a 3?
Yeah, I gave it a 3, and Ryan gave it a 4, which gives us an average of 3.
We'll give an average of 3. And so for myself, Jonathan Charney, James Stevens, and Ryan Preston, see you next week.
This episode of Old Guy Tech TV is brought to you by Ward's Automotive, specializing in Banks Power and Pack Brake, servicing your car or truck and specializing in diesel engines. Over 30 years of service, located in Diamond Springs, California. Give them a call at 530-626-5588.